or died from some disease, I don't remember. 1519, his crew ran out of water. 5 ships' crews ran out of water. They drank their urine for several days until they reached the next coast and could fill up the drinking water. These are modern stories. Aaron Ralston, a hiker in a canyon in Utah, his arm got squashed in a boulder, and he was stuck with the arm under a boulder for several days. The only thing he had was his own urine. He survived. I think he even cut off his own arm or some crazy stuff. He survived thanks to drinking his own urine. 2 brothers trapped in a coal mine in China a few years ago survived with the help of urine. 2010, 10 days after the earthquake in Haiti, someone got out of the rubble, had lived only on urine. So urine can help you for some time, not endlessly. And you might all be aware of this gentleman or these gentlemen, Bear Grylls, the survival artist. He even went into the Rocky Mountains with Obama and had some fun. In TV, he shows how he drinks his own urine as a survival skill. Before he went up with Obama, there were all kind of bets going on whether he will make Obama drink his own urine. But I don't think he did it. Then we have people like this, J.D. Salinger, famous author of the book The Catcher in the Rye. Maybe you don't know the book. In America, it was a bestseller, and he got maybe even a Nobel Prize or some other prize. He drank his urine. He got 91 years old. This gentleman drank his urine. He got 99 years old. Anybody of you knows him? Freedom fighter, yes. He was a Gandhian, yes. He made a career later. He was a Prime Minister of India from 1977 to 79. His mate is Morarji Desai, Prime Minister of the so-called Janata Party, which today is the BJP. He was the first BJP Prime Minister. He drank his own urine every morning religiously for several decades. He got 99 years old. Cannot be too bad. And then there are all kind of people, American surgeon, German pediatrician, American nutritionist, all defend and promote drinking your own urine. And they say it is not only good for outer applications, not only good for drinking, it is even possible to inject it and you will heal miraculously allergies, eczema, asthma, whooping cough, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer cases, etc., etc., etc. So at one point you feel, okay, it seems to be the cure-all. When something becomes the cure-all, then I get a little bit skeptical, but I could imagine that in some cases it has a real impact. I personally have a friend who cured one summer of allergy by drinking his urine. So he told me personally, I know he's not making up a story, he told me very confidentially, he didn't want to tell it to everybody, so I believe him. Sometimes something seems to work. And then we have this Dhamma Tantra. Now it gets crazy. It's all about drinking your own urine, and the tantras are sometimes written, Shiva speaking to Parvati, exchanging the knowledge. So after 8 years, after 9 years, you are free from the cycle of birth and death. Okay. After 11 years, you hear the voice of your own soul. After 10 years, 12 years, you live as long as the moon and the stars. I get my doubts, in spite of this being a sacred text, or maybe half as sacred. I don't know, the Dhamma Tantra. There is a lot of propagation, not only of human urine, but of cow urine in particular, which has a real boom, a recovery, a renaissance in Maharashtra and in Gujarat. I have come across people selling cow urine to drink. And when you see advertisements like this, it cures what? Carbuncle, dysentery, asthma, eczema, epilepsy, vertigo, cancer, dyspepsia, infertility, everything under the sun. Everything, everything. Epilepsy, everything. Okay. I can't take it too serious, I'm sorry. It's too much to be true. This is an interesting fellow. Wally Schirra, one of the first astronauts of the NASA, USA. From 1962 onwards, he was an astronaut for several years. He is with Kennedy in 62. In 65, he was the first one to have a space rendezvous. He arranged for it between two spacecrafts, 1 foot apart in space. That was his maneuvering. Brilliant pilot. Brilliant astronaut. At one point, he had to pee. And then he peed into some funnel and it goes out into the space. And then he clicked a photo of the urine going to space. And then he sent the picture down to Houston. Houston, here it comes. And he said, this is the constellation of Orion. Because the urine glittered, glowed in the space. They had some fun. Several of them did it. Not Schirra was just the first. Several more astronauts played around like this. The constellation of Orion. But going into space, peeing is an issue. Where to pee, how to pee. You are in gravity-free space. Whatever you put anywhere is flying anywhere. How you do it exactly, let your own fantasy go a little bit wild, how they do it. Women and men in space, astronauts, it's not easy. It needs a bit of technical tricks. It is not only difficult for the astronauts in space, it's also difficult for the jet flight pilots, the jet fighter pilots. They have to be sometimes in the air for several hours, all kind of acrobatics or night flights in real war. They are all alone. They cannot tell their crew, I have to go for the pee, you take over. They are alone. How to do it? They all have to find their means and their tricks and their technologies. Actually, oh yes, this is somewhere I found this news that in '69, the first moon landing, they left 4 bags of urine on the moon. I doubt it. I hope they didn't do it. But I know they left some amount of litter there. But the problem with peeing in space and the pilots, it is also similar for the marathon runners. Maybe the marathon runners, the good ones who do 40 kilometers in 2 hours, they don't have to worry. But the amateur runners who take 3, 4, 5 hours, they have to go for a pee. Now the amateur runners who don't run with a stopwatch, they might say, okay, stop, go into the bush, pee, go on running. But those who don't want to lose time, they have a problem. So some of them just let go. They say you can learn it. And the long-term bicyclists, they also learn it. Just let go. Now, another issue of urine in sports. It's a big thing in the last 20 years. It's becoming bigger and bigger. Doping control. You can check in the urine what kind of drugs the sportsman or sportswoman has taken. And they have these so-called doping chaperones. People who check your urine and they follow you the whole day around, 24 hours. And Natale, tennis player, and all of them, oh, it's too much, this guy there, and I have again to pee, and now he has to watch me again when I pee, and they're fed up with the doping chaperones. Of course, there are sports people who play their tricks, who want to take some drugs and still not be caught. There was one baseball or football player, he had always some urine somewhere ready. In case he's asked for a sample, he has something ready which is free of pharmaceuticals. And at one point, he had run out of his stuff, of his reserves. And then he asked a friend, a woman friend, give me some fresh urine, I need to produce a specimen. And he passed that on, and that urine sample came back, and that urine sample caught him, because it was a positive pregnancy test. So, urine is used for diagnostics, for the use of pharmaceuticals, for pregnancy tests, for diabetes, all through the ages, not only since yesterday. Uroscopy, the watching of the urine, is the symbol of the medicine, the medical practitioner for 300, 400, 500 years. They made a big show out of looking at the urine and tell you your future. So there's a whole hype, a whole culture around the uroscopy, looking at urine. What is this? Okay, so urine can be used to get stuff, to collect stuff, like the pharmaceuticals left over, like the hormones. For example, the human chorionic gonadotropin. It was taken from Italian nuns after menopause. You know what that means? After their fertility age, after their capacity to have children, after the time when they have regular monthly periods and menstruation. So from those nuns, they collected urine, extracted this hormone, and that helped to produce the first test tube baby. It was the Italian nuns' hormone that made possible the first in vitro fertilization. This one. And another case is urokinase, an enzyme which was extracted from urine in 1947. It is the medicine that can dissolve blood clots. It is the medicine that is used till today when you have a myocardial infarction or you have a stroke. A blood vessel gets clotted with a blood clot, gets plugged with a blood clot. So urine can be used. Oh, this is another interesting example. The first time penicillin was used clinically with a patient with a severe infection, they had not yet managed to manufacture penicillin. They had not yet built up the production. They realized half of the penicillin given to the patient comes back in the urine. So they brought the urine back to the patient to give him more penicillin. Unfortunately, it didn't last long enough. The patient died. But it was penicillin recovered from urine. That was in 1941. And then there are these things. Some drugs, when you take them, some psychedelic drugs, some psilocybin, magic mushroom drugs, a lot of it gets excreted again in the urine. So there is one Siberian tribe, they share their urine in a circle. One has to pee, they give it to the next, and everybody drinks again, because they all want to stay on their magic mushroom trip. Magic mushrooms, 85% comes out unchanged in urine. You can use it again and again and again. Ecstasy, 60% comes out in urine. Meth, 10 to 20%. And even that is enough for some addicts in jail to share their urine. You've seen this movie? It's a bit the magic mushroom trip, isn't it? There are pharma companies professionally collecting human urine to harvest albumin, a blood protein, growth hormone, interferon, part of the immune system, insulin for diabetes, endorphins, to be pain-free in a little ecstasy. This is being done professionally. Pharma companies that systematically correct human urine to extract these drugs. These drugs means these naturally produced hormones. There's one drug, it's called Premarin. It is given to menopausal women as hormone replacement. And Premarin means taken from pregnant mare's urine. That is a big company, Pfizer, that produces Premarin, and that is taken from the urine of pregnant horses. Now that we know there's so much stuff in urine, we can also imagine what all goes into our wastewater, in our system, in our sewage system. Well, that's the point. When people started taking anti-baby pill, young women in the 1960s in Europe and America, then more and more estrogen was in the water channels and in the rivers, and then they realized that the fish become feminized. The male fish lost out. There were more female fish, or let's say infertile male fish. And actually, the same is happening all over the world. All these hormones go into the wastewater, and at one point they might go into the groundwater, and when they're in the groundwater, they come back in the drinking water. So now more and more our drinking water gets more and more difficult in quality. It is a